Hey there, and welcome into Main Street Living. I'm Danielle Alvaro. You may notice we're missing Quincy and Cheryl today, but they will be back next week. Luckily, we have a clutch player coming in and helping us out on the show today as a guest host.
Yeah, my name is Dion Amade. I am the host of Ford High School Weekly here in Oklahoma, and I cover a bunch of high school football games in the state of Oklahoma for you. So glad that you guys called me in to host and help host Main Street Living.
Yeah, well, we're so excited to have you on. We've obviously had you on as a guest before, Dion, so we appreciate you coming out. And I know you must be really sad because the Super Bowl is over now, which means football is over for a while. And we know you're a former football player, but we have basketball to look forward to.
Yeah, but I mean, like every Monday after the Super Bowl, it's just so rough for me because I'm just like, the last game of the year happened. And now we got to focus on basketball. But I'm excited for that. March Madness is around the corner.
I know. It's like a little pick-me-up after the football letdown, right? There's this little lull, and then we get to get into all of the conference tournaments and March Madness. Do you do a lot of brackets?
I do quite a bit of brackets. I'm not going to lie. I'm one of those guys that I'm so invested on trying to get that Final Four. I despise the person who picks all number ones, although it does happen. Right now, Auburn is looking pretty impressive, although they had that big-time upset with Arkansas last week. But it's going to be interesting to see who gets at that number one spot. I saw your UCLA Bruins. They're kind of in that 3 spot right now in bracketology.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because they got swept on their Arizona road trip, but they are on the mend. They're on the bounce back. I'm not worried about them because they're a big-time tournament team. These guys they have a lot of grit. So I'm excited for the Bruins. I'm also, my family actually is a big Gonzaga fan. So what do you think about Gonzaga? Is this finally going to be their year?
I think it is. I mean, with Timmy coming back, and then they got the young diaper dandy coming in, helping in the fold. I mean, they seem like they're a team to beat. I know Purdue is really close behind, but I mean, Gonzaga's looking pretty good.
Yeah, they have a 7-footer in Chet Holmgren, and he is scary. He's scary. He does stuff that 7-footers should not be able to do. If you don't know who that is, look him up. He's a scary good basketball player.
Yeah, he's like
and speaking of sports,
over there.
I know, exactly. Speaking of sports, also Winter Olympics going on. I feel like I totally missed the boat on this. Have you watched any of this yet?
Here's the thing. I did not watch any of it, but I heard about the Jamaican bobsled team making its comeback. 24 years they've been missing from action, but they make their comeback to the Olympics. So I've been all about that. I tell me the truth. Are you a big fan of Cool Runnings?
Who's not a big fan of Cool Runnings? I've been waiting to talk about it since you said bobsled team.
Yeah, you gotta. I mean, now they have a woman bobsledder, and they have an alpine skier. So
yeah, all of these sports look really dangerous, if I'm being honest. So just
so.
Safety to everybody, and then also if you win, that's great. But we have a great show coming up. We're so excited to have Dion on with us, and we're going to continue to celebrate Black History Month today on today's show, starting with the power of a story. You have to meet this storyteller. She's amazing. So don't go anywhere. All of that coming up on Main Street Living.
Welcome back to Main Street Living. Hearing a good story is not only entertaining, it can actually change the way you think and feel. And stories speak to us in ways that data and PowerPoint slides just can't.
Absolutely, Dion. And our next guest is the director of a group in Rhode Island that's working to preserve and grow the art of storytelling. Please welcome to Main Street Living, Valerie Tutson. But we're going to call her Val today because, it's on Main Street Living. We're all friends here. Val, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Dion. What an honor to be here with you on Main Street.
Well, we are, of course, going to ask you to tell us a story later on. But for the first things first, you're the director, obviously, Rhode Island Black Storytellers Association. That's been going strong for nearly 25 years now. How and why did this group get together?
What a great question. 25 years ago, the Rhode Island Black Storytellers didn't exist, but Rhode Island was getting ready to do a project celebrating Black arts and artists in community. And there was funding available, and there were several of us who were telling stories and going to storytelling festivals all across the country. And we thought, wouldn't it be great to start the year of a celebration of Black arts and artists in community with a Black storytelling festival? I was sitting at my friend Ramona's table, and we said, what are we going to call ourselves? And we said, how about Rhode Island Black Storytellers, otherwise known as Ribs? And that's how we were born.
The Ribs.
Yeah.
Ribs. I love it.
Hungry, right? For some good, nourishing food and stories.
That's very much what I thought of initially. But the second thing I thought about was, who are your storytellers, and where does this happen? Is it like a performance event, or is it in schools?
Well, our storytellers started as a collective of, there were about 5 of us who were working as professional storytellers, who included Len Cabral and Ramona Bass and Rochelle Garner Coleman, Melody Thompson, Abigail Jefferson. And we were all working in schools and libraries, and we expanded. So now we include educators, we include story lovers, we include teachers, because people use storytelling in every walk of life. And so it isn't just folks who are telling professionally, but also people who just love to hear a good story.
Yeah. Well, and traditionally in many societies, including historically African societies, use storytelling as a way to preserve history. Obviously, it's Black History Month in February. How are you using this art form to share Black history?
Well, of course, long before there were books, long before we had this medium that we're in right now, television or broadcast, whatever it is, people gathered to hear the storyteller, and the storyteller had to know the history and had to know the people. So we go into schools, we just did our big festival, but individually we go into the schools and we share stories. Sometimes we're doing it on Zoom because we're still in the pandemic, and we do it any way that we can. We're also teaching a course this week that we call Black History Matters, where we're sharing little known Black stories on Zoom so that they can be experienced either live or pre-recorded, in the best way that we can.
So why is storytelling so much more powerful than just telling a fact or a lesson?
Facts are so boring. Do you all remember learning history? Look, I hated history, and I tell this to kids all the time, because they were facts and dates, and you had to memorize them and get them right or wrong. And actually, honestly, mostly in history, I didn't learn about myself. It was wealthy white guys who won the war or had the money, had the power. But I loved biographies because those were the stories of real people. So, and the stories of real people they're full bodied, right? It's not just a fact for your head, but stories help your heart and your head to come together. And a lot of times when you experience a story, you have to sit in silence with it, because it just kind of washes over your whole being and your soul, and it takes you back in time. You're sitting in this moment, but you're also able to dream about the future.
Okay, well, I already can't wait to hear you tell a story in a couple minutes here, because you've already lulled us in here. But also something to note too is you guys put on this annual event called Funda Fest. Is that correct pronunciation there? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's close. It's actually Funda, but it looks like fun, so it's a little deceptive. And that's actually why we named it that, right? It's a Zulu word from the Zulu people in South Africa. And it means to learn, and it means to read. And in other parts of the continent, it also means to learn. Did I say that already? To learn, to read, to teach. That's what I'm trying to say. So for 24 years, we thought, well, we want to have this Funda Festival. We bring Black storytellers from all walks of life, really the diaspora, right? Because we know there's no one Black story or one Black storytelling way. And we perform all over the region, reaching over 7,000 students in their schools and people in public places and spaces. And of course, the past 2 years we've been virtual. So we've literally Zoomed in people from Malawi and South Africa and Jamaica and the Dominican Republic and the UK. And Minnesota. So
it's so cool.
Fun. Yeah. And we tell stories. So we tell stories, we do workshops, we create places where people can share stories together as well. So that's what we do.
Well, just like Danielle, I'm excited to maybe hear one of those stories as well. Do you have time to stick with us and tell us one of these stories?
Well, sure.
All
I'd
right.
be happy to.
Well, everybody, don't go anywhere because we are going to have story time with Val Tutson on the other side of the break. We will see you there. Welcome back into Main Street Living. We are here with Valerie Tutson of the Rhode Island Black Storytellers Association, and we, of course, could not let her go without hearing a story.
Yeah, Valerie, would you be able to give us a sample or what the storytellers do, or share one of your favorite stories with us?
Of course, Dion, thank you both for asking me. Of course, I wanted to tell you one of the stories that I think is most important for the work that we do. It's actually related to the symbol for the National Association of Black Storytellers, which is this. This is an animal's tale carried by people who pass on traditions. And I'm going to tell you the story of why the storyteller is considered so important in Liberia, West Africa. And this is the way I tell it. Once, a long time ago in Liberia, there was a man who was a hunter, and he had a wife, and they had several children, and his wife was pregnant. Now, one day this man said to his wife, I'm going off into the woods, and I'm going to go hunting, and I don't want you to eat till I get back. And so his wife agreed, and off he went. Well, all day long, the family worked to make the meal ready, but when they sat down to eat, father had not returned. Mother said he'd be back the next day, but he wasn't. And the days and nights turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months. And before a year passed, something incredible happened. Something so amazing they forgot all about father. You can probably guess what it was, right? She had the baby. A little baby boy came screaming into the world. And he was beautiful. Oh, Dion, he looked just like you. Dark chocolate skin and beautiful hair and he was so cute. Everybody loved him. And everybody watched as that beautiful baby grew. They watched him crawl and watched as he learned to Google some words. And then the best day came when he walked up to his mother and asked his first question. Mama, where is my dada? And his mother said, that's a good question. I don't know where your dada went. He went hunting and he didn't come back. Well, the older children heard this and they said, Mother, we saw the path that father took and we will go down it and we will find father. We'll bring him back in time for dinner. So off they headed down the same path their father had taken. And they walked for a long time until they came to a place where the path was completely overgrown. And when they got there, some of the children wanted to give up because that's what some people do when they encounter an obstacle. But one child said, wait, I know how to get through here. Father showed me what to do and I will show you. And this girl got down on her belly and she wiggled like a snake underneath the roots of the trees. And her brothers and sisters followed her and they found themselves standing up in a clearing. And there on the ground, they saw a pile of bones with a human skull. And all around the bones, they saw broken and rusted hunting tools. And when they looked closely, they recognized their father's hunting tools. And being smart young people, they figured those bones must be their father's bones. He must have been killed in the hunt. We'd better bring these bones back to mother. But they were afraid until one child said, I know how to put the bones together. Father showed me what to do. And that child put the bones together. I know how to put flesh and blood on the bones. Father showed me, and I will show you. And that child put flesh and blood on the bones. I know how to make father walk, said the next child. He showed me, and I will show you. And father was walking, and soon they were all dancing. And then the last child said, I know how to make father speak. He showed me, and I will show you. And he touched father's mouth. And father said, my children, how good of you to have come. You've brought me back from the land of the dead. Now let's go home to your mother. And so they made their way out of the woods, singing a song to let their mother know they were coming. Ago pas ole, ago pas ole, ago pas ole, la 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 la. There was great rejoicing when mother and father saw each other and ran together and hugged and kissed, and father got to meet the baby, and there was more rejoicing. And then father said, now that I'm home, I'm going to shave my head and go into the hut and stay there for 4 days, because that was the custom when somebody came back from the land of the dead. When I come out, I want there to be a big celebration. Kill the fattest cow you can find and bring me the cow's tail. And so they did as father asked. They gave him the tail. And 4 days later, when that cow was ready to feed the entire village, father walked out with the most magnificent tail, with beautiful beads all around it and shells. And it was so glorious that the people said, oh, can we have it? And father said, I have special plans for this. I'm going to give it to the child who was most responsible for bringing me back from the land of the dead. Can you guess who it was? If we were under a tree, maybe y'all have a guess. We don't have a ton of time, so I'll tell you what I heard. This will go to Pooley, because Pooley is the one who asked the question, Mama, where is my dada? And until he did, you had forgotten about me. You'd given me up for dead and gone. So Pooley, come here. His father handed over that tail, and Pooley took it, and he carried it with him for the rest of his life. He always had it, even when he was old and couldn't get around too much. And every year from that time, when the village gathered for the stories, he had been told why he received that special gift. And when he was old and when the young people would come and see him outside, they would greet him, and he would greet them back. And they'd say, what is it? And he would tell them, and they'd say, well, where did you get it? And he'd say, if you have time, I have a story. And they'd say, yes, we have time. And Pooley would tell the story of his father. And he would always finish by saying, so you see this, it reminds me, and I hope it reminds you. No one is ever dead unless or until he or she is forgotten.
Amazing. Valerie.
Wow.
That was 7 minutes right there.
You nailed it, first of all, nailed the timing, but you were just you're such a talent. You're such a treasure. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us.
Oh, you are so welcome. It is truly one of my favorites. I tell it all the time, but it's especially relevant when we're celebrating Black History Month.
Absolutely. And real quick too, for like Funda Fest, is it digital? Can people come to it? Can they see it before we let you go?
You know, they can see it on our Facebook page until March 1st. We're officially over, but all of our programs are there, and they can, sign up on our mailing list, and they can get ready for next year. We are planning now for our 25th celebration. We'd love to have everyone.
Wow. Well, congratulations, Val. Val Tutson from the Rhode Island Black Storytellers. Thank you so much.
Danielle, Dion, thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, Dion, that was amazing. And that kind of illustrates how important, oral history is, and just storytelling in general. And so coming up, we are going to talk about preserving and protecting our history. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back into Main Street Living. Dion, museums are actually a great place to dive deeper into different subjects or learn about pieces of our history, because they enrich our communities just by sharing information.
But not a lot of museums do all that. Plus, take an active role in their community and making it safer. Take a look at the important work being done in Rhode Island at Stages of Freedom.
I'm Ray Rickman. This is Stages of Freedom, Rhode Island's premier African-American nonprofit. This museum you're supposed to feel good in. You're supposed to get educated in it. It will be the only African American museum in Rhode Island.
Stages of Freedom is an important name because it can be looked at in several ways. That is the stage that we perform on. It's also the stages that we try to achieve. We're constantly struggling for that and rising to a new stage, we hope.
This is a bank building built in 1855, and it was the tallest building in New England for 13 months. This is a teaching museum. When they show up, they can ask questions, and people do, and people need to ask questions.
This place is chock-a-block with books, art, collectibles, small furnishings, antiques, all of which have been donated and all of which, when sold, help pay for swimming lessons for African American children in Rhode Island.
Black children drown 5.5 times more often than anyone else in the world. But we do a year-round swim program for about 500 African American youth every year. We believe it's the biggest program in the country, teaching black children how to swim.
The museum and the space itself really is a way of encapsulating what we've done for 40 years, which is to tell stories of extraordinary African American accomplishment and excellence. And so there are essentially two galleries. We're sitting in the smaller of the two, and in this gallery there were 3 panels that tell the really remarkable story of Sister Rhode Jones, known at the time as the greatest singer of her race, and we believe probably the greatest singer, bar none, during her lifetime. She was a trailblazer who grew up on the east side, basically across from Congdon Street Baptist Church, the oldest standing black church in Rhode Island. She was a woman ahead of her time and really paved the way for virtually any artist you can speak of today. And we can't tell her story enough. 2 weeks ago, a very dear friend of ours, Dan Meshnig, walked into our museum and said, "I have something extraordinary to give to you." And it was this beautiful little painting of Becky Howard by the artist Stetson, who was a very close friend and co-founder with Edward Bannister, who, with other gentlemen, created the Providence Art Club, the second oldest art club in America, which sits on Thomas Street.
Our goal in life is to get support for Stages of Freedom and to get people to come, and support means financial, but it also means we do a lot of teaching, and we want people to learn, because if they knew more, they'd do more.
Wow, that's really impressive what they're doing over there in Rhode Island and the Stages of Freedom. Gotta have more kind of stuff like that in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And the swimming is really interesting too. I love that they're taking such an active role in teaching kids. And you can find more about Stages of Freedom and get connected through their website, stagesoffreedom.org.
When we come back on Main Street Living, we have art on a grand scale.
Hey y'all, welcome back into Main Street Living. Last week, you may remember we spoke to Gisette Knight, whose Shining Light Foundation is facilitating the creation of Black history murals in cities all across the country.
Today, we have one of their artists who will talk to us about what it takes to make these murals so special. Welcome, Deborah Jones.
Hello, how are you?
How's it going, Miss Jones?
Good.
Now, obviously, you're not African American, but how did you get involved in painting these Black history murals?
Well, I noticed that, and a lot of us aren't. One of the neat things about it is my history is your history. I am a avid believer in Black History Month because I've learned probably more in February's throughout my life than anywhere else. And we were offered an opportunity to be muralists, portrait painters, likeness makers, and I have done large objects, like this is a mural I did previously, but it wasn't super large. And I wanted to test my chops in mural painting. So they just had an open call, and a friend of mine referred me and I responded and I got in.
Wow. So did you get to choose the subject you would paint, or were they assigned? How did that come about?
Shining Light Foundation has a very cool deal where they're cooperating with school children who are writing essays about the various people, and the venues were given opportunities to choose who they wanted on their wall. And they gave us selections, like they had 3 astronauts, 3 opera singers, 3 doctors. And I happened to like my 3 a lot because Josephine Baker, Sammy Davis Jr., and Dorothy Dandridge were well known to me. And I thought they were excellent models for me to start out my very first outdoor mural. I've done murals before, but never outdoors.
Wow.
Excellent indeed. What was the process like getting to know some of these characters and creating this mural?
Well, like I said, I was aware of them, but one of the neater things, especially Josephine Baker, she was kind of my key. I had been watching, like I said, a lot of Black History Month specials and reading books when it came up. But Josephine Baker was remarkable in that she was a wild and crazy burlesque dancer in the 20s. In fact, she almost epitomized Art Deco. And when she left America, she went to France and was treated like a person, like a star, actually. When she came back, there was a lot of discrimination. And so she went back to France. And what really is her core is that she worked with the resistance in France and ended up with tons of medals. She was honored as a war hero. And so she was a little spectacular in my mind. And so I did a little more research. I found out Sammy Davis Jr. is he can go all directions at any time. I think everybody knows Sammy Davis Jr., but Dorothy Dandridge had a really hard life, a sad story, and from what I understand, died very young of bad things. So our history and the history that's wrapped up in these 3 individuals is a microcosm of a lot of it has to do with racism, but it has to do with overcoming racism. It has to do with excelling. It has to do with being amazing people.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, it's funny when you're talking, it reminds me, I worked in an event recently. They gave out t-shirts and they said, Black history is American history. And that's kind of what's reminding me of what you're talking about here. Something really cool though, like you said, you've never done one outside. You're not doing this in a studio. You're just painting on the sidewalk. So did you have a lot of people interacting with you as you were working?
I'm glad you jumped into that because that's kind of what was the most marvelous about it. I had a slightly smaller space. I did not get the gigantic things in the scissor lift, and it was perfect for me to test the waters. But as I drove by, I was on a street corner with no parking spaces, but the light rail had a very long stop. So people would pull up behind me and engage me in conversation. All of it was wonderful. People would yell, I know Sammy Davis Jr., but who are the other ones? And people would applaud me and people would thank me. But the one that was the most disconcerting maybe was I was working, they were sitting there, I could feel their presence, and I heard, all history matters. And I wanted to say, yes, exactly. That's what we're doing. It's history. It's America's history. So yes, I engaged with the people, and I didn't make my lettering on the names very large because I was really enjoying the guessing game the people were having as they pulled up to talk to me. It is a way that the community got involved. My owners loved it. They were 100% supportive, and I feel like I did a great thing. I mean, it was more fun, and when I stopped, I sort of have to admit I was a little saddened.
Oh, wow.
With that experience, I mean, why do you think Black History Month is so important?
When I was a kid, I was raised in a very lily white neighborhood in Littleton, Colorado. And we had a Black family, but I did not know that I didn't really realize what was going on. And even slavery, I did not understand slavery until one Black History Month. I watched a really not marginally good documentary. No, it was a teleplay about Sally Hemings. And it hit me like a ton of bricks that you can be in love with whoever you want, but when you have absolutely no agency, slavery is not just a peculiar institution that they glorified and skimmed over in Gone with the Wind. It was horrendous. And I was not aware. And so I began understanding a lot more about what it really takes to overcome a situation over which you have zero control. And so every February, I'm always introduced to people that I do not know, people that I didn't realize, situations that I didn't understand, like Buffalo Soldiers. They patrolled the national parks for a long time. I mean, I knew there was a Black troop of soldiers, but I didn't realize their history. So loading that history into the American experience is a great time and a great idea, if you ask me.
Yeah. How do you think the murals kind of prompt conversations about Black history?
Well, personally, they would come up and talk to me and people would thank me and everything like that. I think that Shining Light Foundation and Gazette's concept took it to a great new level. Arizona has a lot of ethnic problems. We aren't as Black as some neighborhoods, but we have a lot of Hispanic, we have Asian. There are a lot of ethnicities here that are not recognized. So by putting that Black History Matters on various walls throughout downtown Phoenix and in Mesa, where I live, there's a lot of mural work. It gives an opportunity for people to see, oh yeah, what is the history of those people, the faces that I see on that wall? Why are they part of the same experience that I'm part of if they happen not to be Black? And if they happen to be Black, look them up, learn more. It's great.
Absolutely. How can people get in touch with you or see more of your work before we let you go, Deborah?
Well, I have a website, which is jonesportraitart.com. And that same way you can get in touch with me at jonesportraitart.gmail. And every time I try to give out my Twitter feed, it's different. I think my Instagram is PictureSmithJones. So you can get in touch with me there. Best way is go to my website and click the contact link.
Well, thank you so much, Deborah. We really appreciate you coming on talking about your art.
I thank you so much for having me.
All right, another inspiring story. And next, we're going to meet an inspiring leader who's going to be talking diversity and inclusion. You don't want to miss it, so don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to Main Street Living. We've been hearing the word diversity and inclusion more over the past few years, but it's not news that diverse teams are more productive and better at solving problems. Bottom line, for many reasons, diverse teams are better and more effective.
Yeah, Dion, we're proof of that right here, obviously. We had a problem. We had 2 hosts missing. We brought you in. You were clutch.
Exactly.
Because at Cox, diversity and inclusion are at the core of who we are. And for Black History Month, we'd like to share profiles of some of our top executives and their paths to success.
My name is Amber Hall. I am the VP of Privacy and Compliance and serve as the Chief Compliance and Privacy Officer for Cox Communications. And I sit in Atlanta, Georgia. I grew up in a suburb south of Denver, Centennial, Colorado. I graduated from high school and went to Atlanta and went to Spelman College, which is an all-women's, historically Black college. And it transformed my life. There are 3 pieces of advice that I got along the way. The first is own your career. It's no one else's responsibility but yours to make sure you're getting the experiences you need to move in the direction you want for your career. Have a vision of where you want to go and make sure that you're getting the experiences to achieve that vision. The second is your network. It's important that you grow your network. Don't think about solely growing up your network, like working, trying to impress leaders. That's important, right? It's always important to look up, but it's also as important to look like 360 all around, because you can gain something from everyone that you reach out to. So nourish your network. And the third is be comfortable with taking risks. It's okay to be afraid to make a change, but get comfort, because that's where you get the reward. We spend a lot of time at work. Be authentically you. Share those ideas and perspectives because we need them to be better. Your idea could be the next innovation we need to advance the company, advance the world, who knows? I am a woman who wants to see others move ahead and whatever I can do to be that support to help move them forward. I believe in the spirit of connection, and we're all connected, and it's our purpose here on this earth to make sure that together we can advance. And I have the pleasure of being able to make sure that the culture of Cox is one where people feel comfortable raising their hand to make it better. And it should be the best place that we can be. And I owe that to everyone that works here.
Man, that was impressive. I really like the part where she talks about how she is not only trying to network up, but also network out and bring people along and help them along their path in their career.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to pay it forward.
Yeah, it certainly is. You can find more about Cox's commitment to diversity in our workplace and equity in the community we serve at cox.com.
That's right. And next, coming up, Black History Month programming right here on Your View.
Welcome back to Main Street Living. There's a lot of ways to participate in Black History Month. You can support a Black-owned business or restaurant, enjoy something from a Black author or artist, or just take a little time to learn something about an experience of African Americans through our history or today.
That's right, Dion. And Your View is actually providing a wide range of programming in honor of Black History Month, which is guaranteed to give you new insights, including this enlightening show about one of our country's most recognizable athletes, Muhammad Ali. Check this out.
Down on my knees, but I keep my head to the sky, knowing that the power I need, only God can provide.
My intention is to box to win a clean fight. But in war, the intention is to kill, and continue killing innocent people.
It's been 3.5 years since he's been stripped of his title.
He was 27. His title had been stripped from him back in 1967, and he was just looking to fight.
Convicted for draft evasion, threatened with imprisonment, Muhammad Ali is banned from fighting in all 50 states. But in Atlanta, Georgia, in October of 1970, that all changed. Matched against the top contender for the boxing crown, Jerry Quarry, the greatest, is back.
I just knew it would happen eventually. I just was hoping it would happen before they come grab him to put him in jail.
The build-up to the fight was one of just exceptional enthusiasm.
Reading the papers was exciting because you heard somebody's view on this is going to happen. Quarry's going to win because, and then somebody else says no, Ali's going to win because.
The night of the match was electrifying.
It was, as one observer called it, the largest display of Black wealth in history in a single location up until that point.
A major event took place in our city. I, as mayor, knew that it was significant, that this was very meaningful to our city in many ways.
And what were their challenges? The significance of the fight and the incredible after-party that never happened. Ali's comeback.
Man, Muhammad Ali is one of my favorites, but I gotta figure out what happened at this after party.
Like, people need to know.
Oh man. But you can find descriptions of all the programming Your View will be featuring for Black History Month on our website, yourview.com.
But don't go anywhere, because straight ahead we have more Main Street Living. Welcome back into Main Street Living one last time here with Dion Amade. Dion, how was being on the show today?
It was a pure joy, honestly. I'm not going to lie. Normally I do this by myself, so having you with me has been something that, hey, Mike, can we get her on? Can she come to Ford High School Weekly with me?
Mike, our director for the show. Yeah, well, we obviously appreciated having you as well, because otherwise it would have just been me talking to myself. But easier to be a guest or a host on the show? You've done both.
Definitely easier to be a guest. Definitely.
Okay, that makes me feel good. Like maybe I'm doing something that's kind of difficult, you know?
I'd say so.
But luckily for our viewers, it's actually not that difficult to keep up with the show. So if you ever miss any episode, you can always watch us on the go. Just download the Cox Contour app, sign in, and search for Your View. And you can be sure to tune in next week as well, because we'll continue our celebration of Black History Month. We'll obviously had a storyteller, a muralist today. Who knows what we'll have next week? So make sure you don't miss that. New episodes Monday, 9 p.m. local time. So make sure that you can join us right here on our favorite street and show, Main Street Living. Maybe Quincy and Cheryl will be back. Maybe Dion will be back. Who knows? But more Main Street Living next week.